Hello everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear. Today I wanted to do a quick first impressions of this new knife I just ordered from River's Edge Cutlery. This is the Ruike P661. Now, if you're not familiar with Ruike, they are essentially a budget knife brand that I believe is owned by Phoenix, the flashlights company. I'm assuming that they come from a similar place that their lights do. But yeah, this is one that I was curious about. I had seen one of these, I think a guy on Facebook had posted about his and said he was liking it, and this thing was under $30. So I figured I'd just give it a shot and see how I like it. This isn't the first Ruike I've ever handled. I've actually played with a number of them, and I ended up purchasing one for my dad for, it was either his birthday or Father's Day, something like that. But figured I'd give you a quick first impressions on this guy since I just opened it up a few minutes ago, and let you know how I feel about it. First things first, I like this G10. It's grippy without being gritty, if that makes sense. It's not going to tear up your fingers, your pockets, anything like that. It's definitely kind of toward the smoother end of the spectrum on G10, but it does have enough that there's texture, and it does feel like it'll lock into hand pretty well when I'm using it. The ergos on this guy are surprisingly excellent. I don't feel any hot spots in my hand. I've got small-ish hands. I usually wear about a medium work glove, sometimes large, depending on the brand, but I think my mechanics wear gloves are a medium and they fit me pretty snug. Anywho, this knife is on the smaller end of the scale. I believe it is a sub 3-inch blade. I'm really not a tabletop knife reviewer, so if you're looking for actual specs on this knife, then look up someone else's video or their website. Frankly, I intend to do almost all of my knife videos outdoors, but A, I'm under quarantine and all the trails here are closed, and B, it is raining right now, so this one's happening indoors. But action on this guy is above my expectations. For this price, I am stunned how good the action is. The things that stick out on it are the action. The attention to detail is way more than I've seen on other knives in this price point. It's got this great kind of machined swedge here, or this ground swedge, I should say. And then the rest of the spine is rounded in a really nice way. You do get a little bit of jimping here. The jimping is not providing much traction at all for me, but I can feel that it's there. I could take or leave the jimping, frankly, but it's nice that they did make that step, because other knives in this price point, you don't get any jimping. Yeah, the finish on this blade, it's kind of this bead blasted tone. I think it looks great. We'll see how it wears. I'll use this knife a fair bit to test it out, make sure it's solid, but I think it looks handsome. This is kind of a gentleman's carry style knife out of the box. It's a liner lock. The lockup appears to be real solid to me. Got good contact there. I'll give it a couple decent whacks. It's not coming loose. It's not stuck. There's no lock stick. Yeah, this feels good to me in terms of lockup action. I like that. Let's see how the centering is. Centering does look like it favors the clip side a hair. This knife was under $30 though, so that's frankly better than I was really expecting out of it. Yeah, this is cool. I like the pocket clip, but I don't like that this screw up here got preference over its placement. I would love this pocket clip if it were right up on the butt of the knife. Maybe if they used that clip screw as one of the screws for the pocket clip, something like that would have made a lot more sense. But yeah, I'm looking through this knife, at this knife through the lens of how cheap it was. So overall, I feel like that's a pretty good pocket clip for being this cheap of a knife. I did notice there's just this littlest bit of a rattle, and I was wondering what it was at first, because the backspacer, which appears to be G10, just like the scales, seems to be fit right. I wasn't sure where that rattling was coming from. It wasn't the clip screws. It's this lanyard pin here. So that pin, in essence, is just for you to put a lanyard around. I'm not a lanyard guy. I'm not going to be doing that, but all things considered, it just feels like it's got a little bit of space in there. Maybe that's intentional so that it can kind of spin. I don't know. I don't do lanyards, so I don't know what the protocol is there, but It feels pretty good to me. I guess if that rattle bothers you, then so be it, but it's not like a structural thing on the knife. I'm not worried about the integrity of these handles because the lanyard pin has some play in it. But yeah, definitely happy for the amount that I paid for this knife. I feel like this could easily be 20-30 bucks more than it was, and the quality seems consistent with a higher price point. The edge is sharp, but it's not like razor sharp. Definitely didn't come dull though. Feels pretty thin behind the edge. This ought to be a good slicer. I'll test that out myself to make sure, but I believe they're using Sandvik steel on these. It's like 14C28N. Let me see. Yep, 14C28N. If you can see that there. I like that it's kind of tucked in the corner. I don't know if that's the designer's logo or what. Frankly, I'm not super keen on what's happening with Ruike knives, but this one makes me maybe want to pay attention a little more because I like this quite a bit and I'm excited to use it. It's a great size, frankly. It's pretty lightweight considering it's just solid liners in there. Some of that is probably how small this knife is to begin with, but I think we're under the 3-inch mark on the blade. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, it's a good size knife. I may use this as a secondary a little bit. I feel like it's small enough that I could do that. We'll see what kind of applications I actually put this into. But first impressions are strong. So kudos to Ruike for knocking it out of the park at this price point. This knife does also come in a Wharncliffe version for the same price, same materials, just a different blade shape. I personally thought the drop point suited this knife a little bit better. Especially, I like the way they did that swedge on there. I feel like that adds just a little bit. If this didn't have that swedge and it was just more of a like sterile plain blade all the way across, I don't think I'd have been as drawn to this knife, but I like the way that looks. The way it feels is great. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting with this and see how it holds up. But there's the Ruike P661, and those are my first impressions.